Hey, pretty girl. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2 of the Pretty Girl Be Healed podcast. I am your host, Nakaya.
I am your co-host, Kawana.
And we are back with yet another very interesting topic today. So before we even get in our topic, thank you guys so much for giving us grace for last week. We were out at conferences, and just like we say, you can't pour from an empty cup. We had to be poured into so that we can pour out into you.
Yes.
Self-care is the best care. So we thank you so much for tuning in with us today. And tonight's episode is one that we say dig deep to the root, right? So prepare to dig deep. If you're not familiar, we are streaming live here on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. And don't forget to check out our socials. We are on TikTok as at Pretty Girl B. We are on Instagram as Pretty Girl _Be Healed. And of course, right here and on YouTube as Pretty Girl Be Healed. So make sure you're following us for behind the scenes content. We post almost every day, just different things that the Lord has given us or that just drops in our spirit that we want to talk about. So make sure you click that follow button, that like button, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes. Girl, you all up in that episode talking about pouring out of an empty cup.
I know. Whew. So the topic for today is called Mommy Diaries.
Yes.
So all our mothers out there, or our mothers to be, people that are soon to be mothers or are about to take on the journey to motherhood at some point in their life, this is for you. We're going to be covering all things mommyhood. So sit tight, tag your friends, share this post, share this video, and have everybody come in that needs a word about motherhood.
Yes. Let's talk about just the process of getting here today.
Whew.
Girl.
Get up.
So you know what's funny, y'all? I called the guy, so I was talking to the Lord, just preparing to come up here, and I was like, it's been a week. It's definitely been a week, and I was like, look, and we honest over here, we transparent over here, and don't none of y'all act like sometimes y'all don't feel like it. So I was like, Lord, I don't feel like it. So I called her. I said, girl, what you doing? And she said the same thing. What'd you say?
What did I say? I think I was
She
like...
said, I don't feel... No. You said, I don't feel like it. And I said, that's what I was just talking to God about. But we were just talking about how even when you don't feel like it, you give that I don't feel like it to God. Mm-hmm. Because how many know a lot of times we got to press. Mm-hmm. We got to press regardless of what's taking place. And especially when it comes to parenting, motherhood, sometimes you got to press. Mm-hmm. But I also called you today, and you was doing a little bit of self-care. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, self-care, listen, we can't, like we said earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. And that even stems along the lines of motherhood. You know, we pour out of ourselves to our children, our spouses, so many things, but it's equally as important to just take time for yourself. And for me, it's one thing that I will not go without doing, and that's getting my nails done. Yes. I don't care what happens. I don't care what's on the schedule. I don't care about, the calendar or anything that might need my attention. That hour and a half, 2 hours is my time where I don't answer the phone. I think about nothing. And it's just my time where that's where I get my, what I call mental health points. Yeah. It's where I, pour back into myself. And it's the time where I don't have to hear mom, babe, any of those things, because it's time where it may be something so simple, but for you, it might be journaling. For anybody that's watching, it might be just having that first sip of coffee. Y'all know the first sip of coffee, yes. Anointing, of just taking that sip without being asked for something. So, self-care is, important for everybody. Let's start there. Everybody should have a healthy form of self-care, mm-hmm. But for mothers, it is equally as important, because you got young toddlers, teenagers, young babies that pull and tug on you every day for everything. Mm-hmm. So it's important to just take that time for yourself, even if it's just a moment of silence on a car ride from A to B without your children. Yes. Self-care is important, because you can't, if you are not okay, everything around you is not going to be okay. So if you're not tending to yourself, it's really hard to successfully tend after your household, your children, and other responsibilities that you have if you don't take that time for self-care.
Yeah. And you know what? I know some out there might say, I can't afford to get my nails done. And let me tell y'all, I'm with Nakaya. I got to have my nails. I mean, I have to have my nails done. And that's the one thing that I do for myself. But I was even thinking on yesterday. Yesterday, the kids had just got out of school. I had just picked them up, came home. I have two dogs as well. And you know what? You know what my thing is? Just sitting in that car. Just even if it's just 10, 15 minutes. And yesterday, y'all.
The car ministry.
The car ministry. Listen, and yesterday I had my book. And I was sitting there and I just read a few more pages of my book. And generally, when I pick my kids up, they go in the house, they have their snack and whatever. So I knew they were good and I can see the house from my car. But sometimes it's just taking that 5 or 10 minutes before you go in the house, just to sit in your car, just to have a breather by yourself. So for anyone, who might be saying, well, I don't have time to get my nails done. I mean, I have time to get my hair done. Just be creative about it. You might take a few moments to read your word or to read a book. As of late, I've been reading and it's so fulfilling. It might be something like that. So just be creative about that. Just remember to take the time. Just as Nakaya was just speaking about, it is very, very detrimental to any parent, mother, father, whatever parental situation that you're in, if you do not take that time. And I've been in those places where you're constantly mothering because outside of being a mother, you also may have to be at your job all day or doing something with your business all day. So you definitely need to take that time to just to recoup. To recoup.
Yeah. And I equally think, that, the self-care is important. And it's also equally important for you not to feel guilty about it. It's not, self-care should come simply. It should not be another checkbox like, oh, I ate a meal today. That's self-care. No. That's nourishment. And it's a requirement for being a human being that is not self-care. Or, you know what? I had a sip of water today. No. You need that so you won't be dehydrated. So it's, that's not a self-care technique. We ought not to feel guilty for caring for ourselves. It's important to take that time and not feel guilty. And I think that, I speak for both of us where we've experienced that mom guilt.
Yes. Oh my God.
We've experienced those moments where we retreat for our own care, if it's for a quick meal or our nails or, any of those things that we enjoy doing for ourselves and then feeling guilty about it, feeling like almost a sense of shame because we decided to step away from our children and take that time.
Yeah, I remember one time I was taking a trip and I was on the airplane. And when I tell you the mom guilt hit me like a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And my kids are going to be okay. They're going to miss me. Da, 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 da. And then I started to feel guilty about being away from them. The funny thing is, though, y'all, once that mom guilt passed, my mom was watching them at that time. I didn't even call her no more. I just enjoyed the vacation. And it was funny because she said, you haven't even checked in. But yeah, it definitely could hit you. I wouldn't say that I really have those same bouts of mom guilt now, just because as you journey throughout the process of parenting, you understand that you can't even parent well if you don't have that time.
Yeah.
But you know what else we should talk about? The people who shame you for taking your time. Because I remember even as I was taking that trip, people were telling me, oh, you should have took the kids with you.
I feel like the shame comes from, the traditional motherhood. Definitely traditional motherhood. I can definitely identify that, parenting is progressive. And I know some of the older people will disagree with me, and that's okay. But parenting is definitely progressive, and what works for, previous generations, we adopt some of those principles, but we also, we learn from them, we grow from them, and we kind of morph from them. So I even get some side eyes because if you don't know me, I have 4 daughters. Two of which, one is about to be a teenager in a few weeks, one that's a preteen, and I have twin toddlers. So, even the shame of you had them so far apart, or now, especially with the toddlers, it's, oh my goodness, you have your hands full. Constantly being almost under scrutiny for how you parent, when parenting style is not objective. Yes, there are similarities. Yes, there are things that we all do as parents, but there's no manual to tell us how to be a parent. There is no rubric other than things that we have learned along the way that teaches us that teaches everyone how to be parents. So I think the shame portion of it is because a lot of us have chosen to do things differently than what we've seen before.
Yeah. And what I think goes along with mom guilt is setting boundaries, because I remember as I was setting boundaries for my children, I was experiencing that mom guilt, because we're nurturers. We're built to nurture our children. And one thing that I can think of in particular is my son loves to get in the bed with me. Oh my goodness, that boy loves to get in the bed with mama. And I'm like, you gotta sleep in your own bed. You're a big boy. You gotta sleep in your own bed. And even as we talk about, self-care, and it's important for you to have your own space. And even if it's not a bed, having that space and time where if you know that if you're coming in the house and you need some time to regroup or some time to cook dinner, because what my children like to do is they be ganging up on me, y'all, and they be bringing the dogs with them too. They gang up on me, so I'm trying to cook the dinner, clean up, get their clothes out for the rest of the day, plan lunch or whatever, and mommy, and they show me stuff, they're throwing stuff at me, and sometimes I had to say, let's take 15 and then we can come back to this. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to do that, because a lot of times we might feel, oh, I have to give my children this attention all the time, or they're going to feel rejected, or XYZ or XYZ. Trust me, they'll be fine.
Yeah. I even want to talk about the flip side of that, because, back to the toddlerhood, my teens are like, bruh, we have reached a point in, our mother-daughter, parent-child relationship where, have you seen those memes on social media where you go from mom to mommy, mom, mama, mommy, bruh. Well, I've definitely reached with my teenagers the age of bruh. And, they are in their rooms, they have social circles and sports and clubs and different activities that they're into. So they require less of me. Whereas my toddlers, everything is mommy, 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 mommy. And then if mommy needs a break, it's daddy, 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 and more daddy. So, the one thing I find that I get a lot of comments about is, I'm going to be honest, my twins are 2 and they still in the bed with us. And while, for me, we're working towards, obviously getting them in their own room and getting them adjusted. But I can be honest in saying I'm taking my time.
Yeah.
And because though sometimes I don't like the elbows in my back, the foot in my mouth, and, all of those things, I find a sense of self-care, if you will, knowing that they enjoy laying with us at night and knowing that that's a safe space.
Yes. I love that.
That is definitely a self-care moment for me, and it may sound weird even putting it in the lens of self-care, because yes, eventually they're going to their own bed, but I enjoy the fact that they want to be with us, that they feel a sense of safety and security of laying in the bed with us. And sometimes, I just enjoy those quiet moments when they're asleep, they're in our arms, and I'm just thinking of, the day or just the journey of parenting, because we started over, and just thinking about that, that journey, for me, that is self-care.
Yeah. And I think to your point, it is a matter of balancing it. I was thinking about that, and I was having that moment with my children the other day. I was sitting on the sofa, and we all were just reading. It was just quiet. The dogs were calm, and we were all just reading. And I was thinking like a magnet, like anywhere I stop in the house, the kids and the dogs attract to me. And I think that it's great to have those moments where you sit and you dwell in that space. But it's also okay if you say, not right now. I need a few moments to myself, and just balance in between the two, because neither way is wrong. Who says it's wrong that the children still sleep with you? At this point, we only with the children, we only have them at the age for a certain time. So who says it's wrong?
Right, right. When I think back over my first two daughters in the journey, I did the same thing with them for sure. But, time flies in motherhood. And while, they require our attention, it can be chaotic sometimes. It can be overwhelming sometimes. It can be a lot on your plate sometimes. But I think about my two oldest, and it's like time flew. My oldest will be a teenager in 2 weeks. And I think back to baby pictures. I think back to first moments. I think back to, accomplishments in her development as a teen. And it's like, wow, like, who said I'm supposed to have a teenager? And even my second daughter, she'll be 11 next year. And it's just like thinking about her journey and even thinking about, their journey together because they're 2 years apart. And it's just like, wow, we've made it to this point in preteen and teendom, and it even though it's been almost 11 and 13 years, it went like that.
Yeah.
Is even with the twins, I still remember the pangs of carrying twins, in utero, and now they're two walking around talking about they want chicken nuggets. Like, time flies so fast. So, even in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the guilt, in the midst of the need for mom self-care, in the midst of it all, there's these happy moments, but you're only able to enjoy those moments after boundaries are set.
Yes.
After incorporating your self-care. And that, we didn't even get into the topic of being professionals in motherhood, because we're coming for that too. But you won't be able to enjoy those moments or even have those moments if you are not well first, if you are practicing those boundaries, doing what's best for you as a parent. Doing what's best for you as a parent. What I have chosen to do for my children is different from what you've chosen to do for your children, but it doesn't make me wrong or you right, or vice versa. Exactly. So establishing those boundaries, and we're still very much on the surface. So stay tuned, because our hook is always we dig to the root. So we're laying the foundation, but we're going to dig to the root about why parenting style is going to be unique for every individual.
Yeah.
But for the surface, to get you started and to get you sipping on your drinks and your teas and your waters, all of those things. Self-care is an important part of the journey in parenting, in motherhood, and even just because your self-care is going to teach your next generations of sons and daughters the same thing. So like I said, we're going to dig deeper in a second, but you set the tone not only for yourself, but for those that are coming after you, for your children that are watching you do your skincare in the mirror, for your, for your son that's watching you, take out the trash, or take time and roll a ball with them. Like all of those things are, important, and, you set the tone for what they're going to do next. Because my daughters watch me apply makeup. My daughters watch me do skincare. My daughters watch me do all of the things that I enjoy doing. And now they're heavily into self-care, and like, Mom, I ran out of serum, we got to go to Ulta. Like, just teaching them, the things that I do that make me happy, so that they can learn what makes them happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so beautiful about motherhood is how your children just look up to you. My daughter, as of late, has been playing in my clothes. And, Mommy, can I have a spritz of perfume? Because I love my perfume, y'all.
Yes.
Or just even the sense of fashion that she is developing as she gets older. And those moments are so priceless. And I know we didn't want to get this serious as quickly, but I feel like it's a good segue. Us talking about parenting styles, and that's no way. Well, in some ways, if it goes into something that's not healthy, but when it comes to healthy parenting styles, how different styles doesn't mean better or worse. But I want to kind of delve into. So I was thinking about feedback that I've gotten from my mother about parenting my children, and parenting style versus stricter. My mom was strict, y'all. They call my mom Debo. Yeah,
not Debo.
They call my mom Debo. Listen,
here come Debo.
Everybody was scared of Debo. Yes, everybody.
Not you stuttering. Are you scared?
Listen, a little bit, y'all. She go like, all right, Mom, cool. Yeah, but her style of parenting was definitely much more strict than mine was. In hindsight, I think it was good for me because I was not in a whole bunch of stuff that all my friends. So some of the stuff I was naive to. I didn't even know they was doing some of the stuff they was doing, but my parenting style is different from hers, so it's just different. So I wanted to kind of explore that, just
Yeah.
different parenting styles as they transcend generations.
Yeah, we going here, so let's do it. I definitely think that parenting styles evolve from generations to generations because we learn and grow. Like we said earlier, one of the things that we've learned is that we learn from experiences, right? So I feel like we've adopted some of our parenting styles as a result of the things that we've been through, the things that we've experienced, the things that we watched our parents do, and we've made the conscious decisions to either utilize what they've taught us or change it and change it to our own unique style. So when it comes to parenting, I think that we either adopt the philosophy or the experience shows us what we would do differently and what we wouldn't do to our children. One of the things that I see all across social media are people talking about this idea of gentle parenting. And let's be clear, and I'm ruffle some feathers, and that's okay. Gentle parenting came from a result of having strict, very hands-on parents and somewhat traumatic experiences as a result. So we've adopted this concept of gentle parenting because we promised ourselves that for our children we wouldn't be like our parents. For our children we would do things a little bit differently because everything didn't deserve a smack, a beat, or whatever. And to each his own. I'm not coming for how you choose to parent your children because it is subjective. But I think a lot of us have adopted this philosophy of soft parenting because what we went through, we don't want our children to go through. And what we've experienced, from our mom, dad, whoever raised you, guardian, caregiver, whomever, we have decided that that's not the life or the process that we want to put our children through as it pertains to parenting. So we've adopted soft parenting because hard parenting was too much for us.
Yeah.
So I think that parenting styles evolve because we, in some cases, we don't want to be like our parents. And for some of us, that's not your story and that's not the case. And you have taken on, things that you've learned and developed as a parent. But there's many of us that have decided that soft parenting works for us because we don't want to be like what we saw. And that's okay.
Yeah. So I definitely did adopt their way of thinking. I definitely wanted to parent the opposite of the way my mom did, and only because I just felt like she was too strict. My mom was an awesome mom, and in the hindsight, when I think about my childhood, and as I mentioned earlier, there was a ton of things that I didn't get into because my mom was so strict. And I, some days I think if she wasn't as strict as the other parents, would the trajectory of my life go completely different? But I think that the byproduct of wanting to do the opposite of your parents can sometimes go to the other extremes of it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about soft parenting, I think that I realized I was being a little too soft on my children. And when I talk about that, I mean, I feel like I was overcompensating too much. So, and I think I was overcompensating to the point that my children did not see the value of the things I was doing for them. And not to say the things I was doing for them, because I hate when parents want their children to worship them for being a parent. Like you brought your child into the world. That's like praising a fish for swimming. You're supposed to take care of your kids, right?
You're right.
But for example, my children with the iPads and the things that they get, and they don't think they're supposed to hear no. And I think that, or they didn't think they were supposed to hear no because it's different now. But I had to change the way I was parenting because it was not setting them up for success in what they would experience in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, one of the things that I'll speak about my parenting style. I am very much a conduit of I value my children having feedback about something or having insight about something, and it being not being labeled as disrespectful.
Right.
I would, and we come up in a very similar era where, children that were my age or that are my age now, that were children at that time, it was, do as I say, be quiet. It was considered disrespectful if you had, a response. And I'm not saying,
Yes.
it was okay to get smart with your parents. I'm not implying that at all. However, one of the things that I realized is that, sometimes as parents, we can misinterpret things. We're not perfect. Like I said, there is no rubric, there is no manual. So, we are not perfect beings, and we don't always get things right. And I can recall in my childhood moments where it's like, I'm getting in trouble and I ain't even did. But you dare not say anything, because the precedence in my home was that as the authority figure in the house and as the parent figure in the house, I'm always right, and you hush because you're the child. And one of the things that I've adopted is I've allowed my children to have a discussion with me. It's not just do this, you're wrong, be quiet, shut up. Like, it's none of that. They cannot get out of character, and they are not allowed to be disrespectful, but they can have a conversation with me and be like, Mom, no, maybe you didn't hear me right. Or Mom, I did clean my room, but I spilled my jewelry on the floor and I have to go pick it up. I allow that because I never want them to feel like their voice is unheard or their voice is silenced. Because those are things you take with you into adulthood. Some traumatized adults that are walking around traumatized now are a direct result of the things that have happened in their childhood. So, in terms of evolution, if we can rectify some of those, things that we do as, to children early on, they won't grow up to be traumatized adults.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I was watching a sermon maybe a year or two ago, and the preacher said, don't be your children's first monster.
Yeah.
And that thing, I mean, it really, really drove home for me, because when you think about your children, mommy, dad, whoever, or whatever parenting situation you are in, you are, and a lot of times, your child's inner voice. They're looking for you for affirmation. They're looking to you for love and all those things. So if you're constantly, critical, berating them, all those things, even if it's intentional, it's going to be their inner voice. And, our whole platform is about inner healing, even as a parent. And I didn't think we were going to go down this lane, but let's go down.
Dig to the root. Let's do it.
Even as a parent, it's so important that you get the tools and resources that you need as so that you can be a successful parent.
Yeah.
One is prayer. I can tell you, in my case, I started to go to therapy because a lot of the things that I went through, you could potentially project them on your children. Let's talk about yelling, all those things which are not conducive for a positive experience for your children. Just be in a space where you're open to, especially if you have people who are outside of you, who can see from the outside looking in. Because, a lot of times when somebody says, well, Kawana, I'll use myself, Kawana, maybe you could have did this way. When it comes to parenting, talk about offense. Let's talk about, people get so offensive when you talk about their parenting skills. But I would say, if there is anyone in your life who is seeing something from the outside in and kind of saying, you might, tap you on your shoulder, like you might want to, get some help in that area, then do it. Because you want to be the best parent that you can be for your child. And, my biggest thing in healing and making sure that I'm positioned correctly is that I do not want my children to experience some of the things that I experienced.
Yeah.
And that is why it's so important to dig to the root. And I'm not talking about nothing superficial. You take the little scrape off the scab. No, like literally surgery. Do surgery to correct all the things that you might be afflicted with, so that you don't become your child's first monster. When I think about rejection, abandonment, things like that, you don't want your child to experience that. And that's just a few, but I say those two things because a lot of times those two things children experience from their parents, and not even outside this world, but from the parents. So let's journey there. Let's walk.
Yeah, You said so much. I'm trying to quickly recollect. But one of the I'll speak transparently about my journey to motherhood. One of the things that I've realized I had to do very early on as a mom is that I had to heal my inner child so that my child doesn't have to heal or go through healing for their inner child. Part of the journey to motherhood for me was dealing with my own mommy issues so that my children don't grow up as adults and later have to deal with the things that I've instilled with them because I didn't heal first. So I had to consider some of the hurts that I didn't really want to talk about, and to this day kind of don't want to talk about them. But I had to really,
The Lord is working, y'all.
yes, but I had to really take a good look at some of the things that I endured as a child, as a teenager, in my years of adolescence, so and work through them and heal through them, so that I didn't become the mother that I did, that I didn't want to become the mother that I saw.
Yeah.
I don't want my children to have to endure some of the things that I had to endure. And then they're sitting in somebody's, therapy room, saying that I need to heal my mommy hurts. So a lot of the things that I worked through first were so that, my children didn't have to work through them later. I healed so that they don't even have to, they don't have to, they will not have to experience some of the things that I experienced because I sought, for healing first, so that they don't have to worry about, sitting in a room saying my mother did this and my mother said that, and I carried it into my adulthood. I recognized where I needed to heal, so that I don't trigger that area in them. And I think for any parent, any mom, any dad, whoever's watching, it's equally as important to realize that, sometimes we carry that inner child in us that, might have wanted this, that, or the third. And we have to really work through that process so that our children don't become, duplicates or, of what we've been through.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so good. And this goes back to along the lines when you were talking about having those open conversations, because that's something that I do a lot with my children. And sometimes it's something, kids are very, very articulate, and they will tell you, especially when we realize that the Lord can literally use them to speak something to us. So we need to listen to them. But the one thing I would say, just along the lines of those open conversations, as well as making sure that you're having healthy parenting standards, I guess I would say, is apologizing.
Yeah.
Sometimes mommy didn't get it right.
Right.
And I think that's super, super important. I remember one time my daughter said to me, "But mommy, you're perfect." And I said, "Oh no, we got to debunk this right away. We got to debunk this right away because mommy is certainly not perfect." And then we sat down and we had that conversation, but be quick to apologize. And I'm not talking about, this apologizing all over the place for, but if it's something that truly transpired that you need to apologize for it. And take that walk through the conversation with your child so that they can fully understand what has taken place.
Yeah. And I think it's equally as important, to be open with them.
Yeah.
Because here's the reality. When it comes to parenting, I know we want to, we want to not hide it, but we want to keep our children from certain things, and we don't want them to grow up too fast. And all those things I completely stand in agreement with. But I think it's equally important to be open and honest with them about life and, and just about, their own growth and development, so they don't grow up thinking that everything's perfect. Because there's going to be hardships. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be things that they'll have to face. But as parents, we set the tone for that, in the process and the journey of motherhood. We set the tone for how they perceive life and their perception of experiences. So to your point, your daughter saying, "But mommy, you're perfect." It's important to have those open and honest conversations that things are hard. And I might look like I carry it well, but it's not always cupcakes and rainbows and ice cream and chocolate and sundaes. There are going to be days where you don't feel like it, just like mommy don't feel like it. And I think that those experiences, those conversations, it shapes them to be the next generation of mothers.
And I think too, just along the lines when we talk about perfection, don't think you could go to all the therapy, you could pray all the prayers, you can do all the things, and still, in the eyes of your children, you might not be a perfect mom. I remember I'd read maybe a blog or a devotional, and it was talking about perception. And you could do all the right things, and still your children might say that you got this or that wrong. And I would say, do your best. Wake up every day, put one foot in front of the other, and just do your best. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, motherhood is hard.
Yes.
Parenting is
It's hard.
And as long as you show up and do the best that you can do, then that's really all that's asked of you. Because I really want to dispel the perception that you need to be perfect.
Yeah.
We can never be perfect, and we won't be perfect parents. In fact, we're going to mess up. I can 1,000% tell you with surety that we're going to mess up. So don't have the expectation that you need to be perfect.
Yeah, I think it's important to be, transparent, and even in your circle of moms, understand, if you don't have a circle and you are mothering or parenting, baby, how you doing it? Because, if it had not been for my circle that kept me grounded and parenting other mothers, that'd be like, girl, you're not crazy. It's just parenting, it's just the cycle of parenting, the process of parenting. We talked a lot about, relational dynamics as it pertains to friendships in our first episode, but I think it's equally as important to talk about, having that circle of moms that kind of ground you in this parenting process, because it's not, parenting is not something that we can do alone.
Right.
It's not something that we can do with just, as a single mom or as a mom with a husband or a spouse or, in a relationship, but you still need those communal supports to support you in this process.
Yeah.
Is parenting, going back years and years and years, but the idea of, it takes a village to raise a child, holds truth to it. We cannot do this by ourselves. So it's important to have that, that community, around you, just to be able to bounce ideas off of, just to be able to talk about, the role of parenting, what our children are going through. Is it just them, or is it, the development, the stage of development that they're in? It's equally important to build that community of moms, and to have that community of moms that when you feel like these kids get ready to test me and try me, you have a parent that be like, well, let's try this, or let me come over and let me take them for a little bit just so you can get some time off. Like, it's important to have, that support around you, because parenting ain't for the weak.
No, them kids be trying. You. But I literally think too, and it's interesting because I was thinking back to this just over the past, let's say, 4 years, and I would not have been able to do it alone. And I frequently call Nakia up, I'm like, Nakia, now this thing happened. What should I do? Or I did this, but now I'm feeling guilt about it, because a lot of times, we might need to correct the children, and we feel bad about it. And it's so important to have someone to say, "Oh yeah, girl, that's gonna happen a couple of times.
Take that tablet."
And yep,
I'm petty. You can have the tablet. Give me the charger.
Yes.
Give me the charger. But yeah, so to your point, it's important to have those, that support system.
Yes.
And it's equally important to, I'm gonna dig a little deeper, because it's not enough to just have that friend that comes over, watch kids, come over, no. It's equally as important to have those friendships, that parenting relationship in your life that hold you accountable to your mess.
Oh yes. Yes.
To your mess, to say, no. Your daughter, your son wasn't wrong, but you're triggered.
Yes.
You're triggered for something that happened in your childhood, and if you're not careful, you're going to project that onto your daughter or your son, or that's not fair. It's equally important to have someone to remind you, hey, you don't have to be like what you saw. Try it this way.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to have the introspect to say, am I projecting? Because I think there's been many times where something has happened, and, I call her up, or call, someone up and be like, am I projecting on her? Because in this process, we had to be open to look at ourselves, because the one thing about it is the process.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to healing in general, never ever think that you got a clipboard, check mommy
Yep.
issues, check daddy issues. No,
Yep.
you know, there should always be a point where you're continually digging and digging and digging and digging and digging just to make sure that there's nothing there. But I would say just be open to even looking at yourself and saying, if there's any point where you're overreacting about something, why is my reaction this way? Just to continue to ask yourself why, until you get to the root. But the one thing that came to mind that I was thinking about is momming and having a career. And both of us have really busy careers. And as I've progressed through my career, I have made some mistakes when it comes to parenting and the dynamics of parenting. So I'll go through some of the mistakes I made first, and then, but I was thinking about being present, and I was thinking about some times where I was not present, and that was taking place at work. You know, you got a deadline that's taking place, you got a project that you're working on, and you're shushing the kids all the time. And on top of work, if you got stuff that you got to do for ministry as well. And I found myself in a perpetual cycle of, I felt like I always had to shush them or to give them an activity to do something somewhere else. And then on top of that, one of the mistakes that I made was that I was parenting my children like a business. And I remember one day my daughter said to me, she frankly said, because my child, she will tell me, because she knows that she can tell me. She said, you know, mommy, you work too much. Mommy, we just want to spend time with you. And the interesting part about it, and this is why I stress being open, is I didn't even realize that my children wanted to spend time with me. And that might sound silly, right? But if you are a person where you've never had a dynamic with anyone else where somebody just genuinely just wanted to spend time with you without wanting anything from you, you wouldn't know. So that was a huge thing that I realized initially when I was navigating being a single mom, trying to balance a very busy career and parenting my children.
Yeah, one of the things that I can definitely say that I've had to set boundaries as it pertains to the many hats we wear as parents. I found myself at a place where, I'm pretty high, I'm in leadership in my career, and I'm doing ministry, doing, personal business, and so many things that, so many hats we wear. One of the things that I had to tell myself it was okay to do was take time off for my children. I often found myself saying like, oh, well, so-and-so got a track meet. This daughter got dance. This daughter got this. Birthdays coming up, and most of my daughters have birthdays throughout the school year. But I got this and this going on at work, so maybe I have to just drop the cupcakes off and not say happy birthday. Yeah. But I started to put a demand on the fact that my children and that my household will come first. Yeah. And not feel bad about it. Not feel bad because such and such at work might need something, or, I have a deadline to meet, while those obligations will be met, they will be met after my first obligations are met, after my children, after my husband, my family, my family is taken care of, then I will tend to those things, but there won't be another moment where those things come first, because what I would never want to happen is for my children to look back and can count on one hand the number of times their mother was present for championships, games, matches, competitions, spelling bees, whatever they're into. They will always remember that I put those things, very high priority on my list, and that we were there. Yeah. We were there.
Yeah. I think mine is the opposite. And I had to realize that I had to be present, and I had to intentionally put that time in so that we would spend time with each other. So movie nights. So my kids get really, really excited about movie nights. And we try to plan it, but sometimes, things come up, but we have planned at least one movie night a week, or if we can fit two movie nights a week, or going to the dog park or things like that. But I would say if there's any moms out there who are, you're balancing your career and you're balancing just being present for your children, make sure that you make that time. There's some days where really we are, I might have, work, and then I might have to, get on prayer or something like that, where it takes, the bulk of the day. Well, then we have time at the end of the night before bedtime to have stories and prayer. Mm-hmm. And the one thing we never miss is prayer. And let me tell you, my children, they don't let me get in that bed and no pray.
Excuse me, you skipped a step.
Prayer.
You skipped a step.
Don't even say, can we pray? Prayer. But, but just to make sure that you make that time any way that you can make it, because, we do get busy in life, but as Nakia was speaking to, it's so important that we're present. We need to be present. We need to be pouring into our children, because we certainly don't want some of the sources that's out here in this world.
Yeah, and even for the mom that's not a professional, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're equally as important, and we're talking to you too, because the other side of motherhood is, of course, tending to the home, tending to bath time, and tending to washing the dishes and cleaning up and all of that other stuff. But don't get lost in those moments where you have your laundry list of things to do for the day that your children isn't one on them. Because yes, we all want a clean house. Yes, we want the laundry done. Yes, the dishes need to be washed. But there are times where I have had to ignore those things and save them for another day if it meant that I got the opportunity to sit crisscross applesauce with popcorn and a movie of their choice to spend that quality time with them. That quality time is equally important. So it's not even just for the working professional mom, but it's for the stay-at-home mom. It's for the part-time job mom. It's for any mom, parent that you are. Don't get so busy creating a life that you miss out on the life of your children.
Yes. And you know what I have been doing with my children as of late? I've been including them in some of the things that I do. So my daughter loves cooking. Well, trying to cook. She ain't cooking yet. But she loves the idea of helping me cook. So even in times where I gotta, hurry up and get the dinner together before, I get on prayer or Bible study or something like that, she'll come and help me cook. She'll come and help me cook. And, that's when we have our intentional time. We talk about her day, talk about, who she went to lunch with, anything, just to make sure that we're building that intimacy. The other thing that helped me when it came to just momming is understanding my children's love language.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's probably been just 2 years ago that I learned about love languages. But I think it's important when we think about momming is that you might have to mom your children a little bit different. My son is very, very affectionate and wants to hug and to cuddle and things like that. My daughter, not so much. She likes acts of services and gifts. Particularly perfume and nail polish and stuff, but
of course.
But they definitely. I learned that I could not mom them the same across the board.
Yeah. Even with my daughters, just because I have 4 daughters, I can't love them and mom them the same way. It is, my oldest daughter is very much, words of affirmation. She definitely loves gifts, y'all. She expensive like her mama. And she's very much, I need my nails done too. Where's my skincare? And I still need that Marc Jacobs bags you promised me. So she's very much, gifts and, words of affirmation. My second daughter is very much, quality time spent. So she's very much into, she has a creative genius about her that I love. And she likes to, take nothing and make it something. So spending that time with her and, really investing that quality time and being very thoughtful about how we do it, is something that she, really, really enjoys. The twins, they just want Lion King and crackers and Jew.
Yeah.
Like, right. So I'm still learning their style, but it's even interesting amongst the two younger daughters is that one of them is very much a touch baby and, loves to love and cuddle and she wants kisses and hugs and, everything about the touch. Whereas the other one just is another like juice and she'll sit next to you and, she'll cuddle when she's ready, but very, very different and they're twins. So, your children's love language and their style with it's going to be different and it'll change. My oldest started off very much as very affectionate and wanting to cuddle. But as she got older, her love language changed. So it's important to be tuned into, your children in that matter so you know how to effectively meet, the need, meet their desires, meet their wants in a way that shows that you know them. So, yes, we know them because we carried them or you're a parent and you've watched them grow and develop, but it's something else when you can meet their love style and their love language.
Yeah. So let's go back just a second because we were talking about keeping house, and I know, and you already know that this is a sore point for me. But let's talk about momming and keeping house because I'll be transparent, y'all. I don't know if y'all like me, but I clean up my house and then I turn around and it looked like a tornado hit it again. And I learned that this week that sometimes I might just wait for the children to go to bed before I clean up. Or sometimes there's some things that I won't be able to get to just because there's so many other things taking place during the day. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about keeping house and the effects on, because I know so many other moms that they want to have a sparkling clean house. They want to have everything in place, but sometimes it's just not possible, and the effect that has on a psyche sometimes.
Yeah, I this is definitely an area for me where very early on I struggled the most. I struggled big time, and here's why. I grew up with a mother that the house had to be clean 25/8. And I say 25/8 and not 24/7 on purpose. Things had to be in order. Things had to be in place. She ain't care how long it took you. You ain't doing nothing else. There'll be no outside till my house is clean. So I found myself, and back to the healing so your children don't have to heal. I found myself talking to my older daughters and constantly everything was clean up, clean up, clean up, clean up, clean up. You could have played a record at the number of times that I told them to clean up. And, I found myself, and my husband actually had to say something to me about it. Like, the house ain't gonna always be clean. And I couldn't accept that because in my adolescence, the house was always, always, always clean and it had to always be clean. There was no excuses but clean. So I found myself, projecting that on them. Like clean, clean, clean. Clean your room, clean the kitchen, clean the dining room, vacuum up. Come on, pick up your toys, get your puzzles, get your, get your whatever, to the point where I got on my own nerves. Like I got on my own nerves. And honestly, what freed me, there was a post from another mother and I was reading it and she was talking about just this very thing. And she literally put in all caps, your house will not always be clean. And that's okay. Because a house, and not a dirty house, we're not talking about, food on the floor. We're not talking about that. But if there's toys left on the floor at the end of the night, if there's a blanket that hasn't been folded, if there's sippy cups on the floor, it's an indicator that your children had a great time and that your children are enjoying, what you're doing for them as it pertains to their childhood. And it really checked me. It checked me in that moment because I was so vested on the fact that my house had to be clean, that, things had to be in their order. And it wasn't even because I wanted to, it was the fear of judgment.
Yes.
I was nervous that somebody was going to walk in my house and judge me because things were not put in their place, to the point that I was, probably driving my older daughters crazy because everything had to be clean. But I think God that I'm freed from that idea because, let them kids be kids. The house does not have to be clean. And like I said, we ain't talking about food on the floor. Please pick it up and vacuum. You don't want mice. But, if toys are left out at the end of the night, that is okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. As long as we have children that are growing, learning, experiencing, developing, the house is not going to be clean. And it doesn't make you any less of a parent or less of a mother because you have decided to not put the books away and instead spend extra time with them cuddling before bedtime.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Well, I've had this conversation with her many a times, but I remember one time we had the conversation, and she was like, "Kawana, the house is not always going to be clean," and I completely rejected it. I'm like, "Nope, there is a way. It's going to be clean somehow."
Yeah.
And I think that I think it's freeing because it's unrealistic. Especially, I have two smaller kids, so and I have a boy. Y'all already know. So
I don't know about that
he's
boy
rough.
life.
He is like a little tornado sometimes. So it's just unrealistic. And literally, as you were speaking, literally driving myself crazy. Literally driving myself crazy. And then when you think about the way our world is shaped, Instagram, Facebook, you got everybody on the socials who got these perfect houses. And I love when I saw one influencer, I don't know what you call them, and they had their house, and it was like Instagram and reality. In reality, it was stuff all over the place. So I would say, this is something I had to be free from. Don't live your life based on what you're of an ideal of perfection that
Yeah.
actually doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Because this is real life. And in real life, sometimes we might not, sometimes we don't get to the laundry until Tuesday, and we meant to do it on Sunday because it's real life. And it's not to say, it's not to let us off hook and to say not do it. We're not talking about no filthy house. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about an ideal of perfection that won't ever exist.
Yeah, yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Free yourself from even the pressure. I feel that definitely. The pressure that you put on yourself that things must be in order. We'll get there. It's a journey. It's a journey. And I would rather spend this journey making sure that my kids have a great childhood than making sure things were clean. Because back to our initial point, they're only children once.
Yeah.
They're going to be adults for the rest of their lives. And what we do now sets them up for success. So if it means that, okay, y'all, we gonna play, and it's bedtime now, but we're gonna clean these blocks up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Clean them blocks up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Don't feel like release yourself from the judgment of others. That was my thing.
Yeah, me
I was
too.
so nervous that somebody was gonna drop in unexpectedly and find that it was a blanket thrown across the floor. It might be shoes on the step. It might be sports equipment over because somebody just came from practice. There might be a box of pizza that we eating for dinner because I decided not to cook. There might be those things, but free yourself from the judgment of having to be, this idea of
Susie
perfection.
Homemaker.
Yeah, because that ain't it. Not this day and age.
No, not me.
Even the stay-at-home mom has a list of responsibilities
Yes.
from the market to the, and just like any other parent, so free yourself from the judgment because everybody's house don't look the same, everybody's parents' style don't look the same, but it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong.
No, it does not.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. So, as we land this plane,
Right.
what would you say thus far has been your biggest aha moments when it comes to momming?
That's heavy. Come on. I thought you said we was closing. I mean, definitely my aha moments were, I want to be the mom that you will remember at all times that I was there. And not that I was just there, because there's a difference between being present in your child's life and then just being there. Being intentional in my children's life looks like taking that time to really learn them. Because if for most of us, our children are away from us more hours of the day than they're with us. So sometimes I have to sit as a parent and catch up with their life.
Yeah.
Even my twin, 2 or 2, and have definitely advanced in language development. But I sit with them. How was your day? Did you have fun today? When I pick my children up from school, I ask questions like, it's not enough for me to say, how's your day? And they say, good. No. I ask questions like, what made you smile?
Yeah.
What made you sad? What'd you eat for lunch? Which one take tomorrow?
Yep.
How were your friendships?
Yep.
I'm the hair doer, so what they say about your hair, that's the favorite, my favorite line when they get new hairstyles. Like, just being intentional about, capturing their day and letting them know that I care.
Yeah.
It's those small moments of intentionality that I love about being a parent, because, I'm, just like I'm at work, they're at school.
Yeah.
And it's equally as important. So I have to catch up with the day. So the aha moments for me was just those small moments of intentionality. If we're home having dinner, if we're in the car, and even the one-on-one time, because I have 4 kids, right? So even the aha moment more recently, after I had the twins, was having the reality of breaking up my time for each of the children. So they all 4 daughters, but they have their own unique needs.
Yeah.
So I have learned, to separate the time and not, we always do things as a group because we girls, it's my squad.
Yeah.
But it's equally as important for me to spend time with my oldest by herself, nobody else. This is my second daughter, by herself, nobody else, doing things that they love, that they enjoy doing, independently of all their other sisters, because they need that time too.
Yeah.
Even the twins, and they spent a whole lot of time together in utero and now in this world. But even with them, I'm intentional about spending time with them individually so that they get a peace of mind too. It's not always a collective where they have to share me, but that they get those special moments, with me as a parent, where it's just me and you.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that might have been one of the hardest things, because it's hard to juggle, right? Like there's 4 of them. So no, it was very hard to juggle, especially when the twins were infants. But I'm very, very intentional about, I'm spending time with you.
Yeah.
This is you and mommy time, and we're going to do whatever you want. We're going to plan it. We're going to, we're going to go get whatever you want. We're going to do. But it's definitely an aha moment that, while it's difficult to do when the schedules get in the way and all those other things, being intentional about that personal time with you and your child is so important.
Yeah, I would say I would have a few aha moments. One, as I mentioned before, is just learning that they are different. The way they want to be loved is completely different, and not just having a blank slate across the board on how I interact with them. I would say as well, just being present. The children just love that quality time with me, and I learned as well to have that time with my daughter versus with my son, so that they can get that individual attention as well. And I would say the third thing is just healing. Healing and continuing to heal, to make sure that there is nothing that I'm projecting on my children, or that as they look at me as a role model, that they have a good role model to look at. I think that's truly, truly, truly important. And just being apologetic anytime where I need to be apologetic to them. I think that it really helps in them communicating to me when they're having feelings about something. And sometimes the feelings do not warrant an apology. Sometimes I said what I said, because we ain't talking about the I said what I said moments, but just healing. And it's important for them to even know that there isn't perfection, and for them to see my relationship with God and how God is transforming me, because I want them to know that.
Yeah.
I want them to know that that piece of a relationship with God. So yeah, I would say those 3 things: just being present, continuing to heal, continuing to make sure I don't have any residue of anything, and loving them in a way that they need to be loved.
Yeah, I would think one last aha moment for me was back to what you were talking about prayer. It's me in my prayer closet, for real. And the one thing I learned, even in my growth and development as a worshiper, as a in that vein, is that sometimes I had to welcome them into my prayer closet.
Yes.
Because it's important to teach them the power of prayer, but I can't do that if I'm always hiding in my closet. So sometimes I had to be vulnerable in a space where it's usually just me and God, so that they can understand the intimate relationship that they too can have with God. And even it's not enough. We have to do a part 2, but it's not enough to take them to church and then not show them the ropes at home. So it's equally as important that if you're telling them to have prayer time, and so and trying to teach them worship worship externally, that in external places, it's equally as important to do that at home because we're their first teachers.
Yep.
You know, we're the first people that they're going to glean and learn from. So, you know, it wasn't enough for me to say, come on, y'all, pray before bed, or, you know, no, but be intentional about, you know, building that intimate relationship with the Lord, but they're going to learn it from you first.
Yeah.
So they're watching your walk. They're watching, you know, you pray. They're watching you trust God. They're watching you have faith. So my aha moments was I have to welcome into that space that's usually dedicated to me and God so that they can understand, you know, that they too can, and they don't have to wait till they my age.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have to wait until, you know, they're adults to begin to cultivate that relationship with God. They can have it now, but it's you know, it's up to us as the mothers and the parents to show them that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, and this is my last thing before we close out. But I would say that it's so important to give them that vernacular through prayer and worship. And you know, my children, they just recently went through a worship intensive, and when I tell you, I was just amazed at how they worship. And even when it comes to prayer, their language has changed too. So there was an incident where our dog was sick, and these kids was praying. They were not, you know, I didn't have to tell them. They knew that. You know, they wanted to pray protection on it. They wanted the dog to, so they prayed. Even the other day, I can't remember what I was doing. But my son said, I'm going to pray that mommy, da 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 da. Like, this is something that is in their language now. They see me worshiping and, oh, mommy, can we get our flags too and worship with you? It's so important because this is our weapons. This is how we fight. And again, to Nakaia's point, I was very, very much like that. My secret closet in my head was it still is sacred, but I didn't want to share it with anybody else, but your children need to see you to pray. They need to see how you go to war.
Yeah.
And now my children are getting the understanding that, okay, so this is happening. This is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And you know, I talked about this earlier in the podcast. Is they don't if we don't go to if mommy start nodding off, oh no, mommy, it's time for prayer. So they're being able to connect this thing with this thing, and that's super important.
Yeah, because if we don't teach them, the world gonna teach them.
Yeah.
That's just it. You know,
Yeah.
a funny story, and we you know, we could close out. I'll never forget. My second daughter was going to school, and this was a couple years ago, and it was around this time of the year where they prepare for, you know, October 31st, and my daughter was going to art class, and they were passing out different things that they were going to make, and they were supposed to make a ghost and a witch, and my daughter was like, I'm not doing it. And I got a phone call from the school about it, and you know, I said, "Well, can I?" They basically said that she was being difficult in class, and she was being like defiant. So I said, "Well, can I speak to her? You know, can I see? I want to know what's going on before, you know, I say anything about it." So they put her on the phone. I said, "Hey, you know, fill in the blank. What's going on?" And she said, "Mommy, we're in art class, and we're supposed to be getting things together for October 31st. And I said, okay. She goes, well, mommy, they said we had to create like witches' hats and like this ghost thing or whatever. And I told the teacher that no ghosts live here but the Holy Ghost. And she sent me to the teacher, to the principal's office. She's like, but mommy, we don't do ghosts. We don't do witches around here. So I don't know why they're trying to make me. And she was like, it wasn't even what she was saying. It was her persistence to stand her ground about the things that she truly believed. And it was in that moment why I had to tell the teacher, she said what she said. But, you know, it was just that persistence that the things that, you know, we teach them, the things that they're learning and growing, they stand on and don't forget. So, you know, those are those aha moments, and even in moments where they don't think I'm looking and I see them in prayer, or, you know, they're asking very insightful questions. It means that their ear is attentive to the things that they're not only learning in services, but they're learning at home. So, you know, I think it's, you know, equally intentional, you know, those aha moments when it comes to parenting, because we shape their future. So we have to shape it well.
Yeah.
We have to shape it well.
Girl, my kids is quick to rebuke somebody or to say
Listen.
something. Oh, mom, that's demonic. I be like, you right, baby.
Listen.
Yeah, but they know. They know.
Yeah, it's important to teach them. So, I know this was a loaded conversation. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just want to speak to the parents right now. I want to speak to the mothers right now, and just confirm that you're not alone. That parenting is hard. We weren't given a manual. We weren't given a rubric, a how-to, a instructional, a video, a nothing. But I just want to commend all the mothers, all the parents out there that you were doing your best.
Yes.
You are doing your best. You are doing a good job. If there was anything that tugged at your heartstrings throughout this podcast that we talked about that you want to learn and grow from, it is our hope that you take the steps to heal if you need to. Surround yourself with a great support system. Really be intentional about the time that we spend with our children. And I even challenge you to consider your process in motherhood, and smile at the great things that you've done, and then take note of the areas of opportunity and improvement, and then do the work to grow for them. We would love to dialogue with you in the comments. So if you have any comments about anything that we've talked about, anything that we've said, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll be sure to be intentional about responding and building a community and a conversation with you, because we heal. We dig to the root, and the purpose for doing that is to heal, to grow, and to become the best version of yourself. So we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you haven't already, we invite you to follow us on our socials for behind the scenes content and things that we drop on the socials. If you're on Instagram, we are at prettygirl_B_Hill. If you are on TikTok, it is at prettygirlb, and we're right here on Facebook at prettygirlbheal. We're also on YouTube, also prettygirlbheal. So like us, support us, share our content. Yes. There's no better way to support us than to share. It's a click of a button. So we thank you guys so much for tuning in on episode 2 of our podcast. Stay tuned for next week, where we'll bring you episode 3, which is going to be an even greater topic. So anything you want to say before we close out?
Yes, I just want to say, also, if you guys have any prayer requests, definitely just shoot them in the DMs, and we will be happy to pray for you as well. Also, shout out again to our producer, and we're live from HOG Studios. Woo.
Yes. If you have any questions or any topic ideas, feel free to DM us or email us at ask.prettygirlb@gmail.com. We would love to hear you. If any scenarios you want us to bring up, anything, reach out to us via DM or email, and we will see you back here next week, Friday at 8 p.m. See you later, pretty girl.
Bye, pretty girl.